Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we have another great project that I really enjoy. I have found some yarn that I really like recently. I love the colors and the softness of it, and I wanted to do something that would be adorable and soft and pretty, and hence here is the project for today, which is a really adorable child's sweater. The one I'm making in this video is for a child size 2. But I'll have information in there in case you want to make it in a different size, up to maybe a size 8, 10, somewhere around there. So I'll have all that information in here. But with that in mind, let's jump right in and see what materials we need and get going making this beautiful sweater. So let's talk about what materials you're going to need for this project. For my version of this, I'm actually using the Lion brand Schitt's Creek yarn. And you'll notice that I have a couple of projects now using this yarn. I just really fell in love with all the colors that they have there and wanted to find different things that I could make with that yarn just because I really enjoyed it. The colors are beautiful. It's really a nice soft yarn. And for this, just so you can see, this is a weight 4 or medium. And you can use any weight 4 yarn that you'd like with this project. I would recommend though that you do a quick gauge section just to make sure you can match gauge, and I'll put that information in the description box so you know what you're shooting for here. This one is called Wine and Roses. I think it's a really pretty color. But you'll probably need 2 or more of these, depending on what size you're going to do. But for the size 2, which I'm doing, I'm going to use 2 of these. Probably won't use up the whole thing, but that's what you can use. And go ahead, if you want to use a different brand or a different color, feel free to do that. You just might want to check your gauge before you continue to make sure you know which size hooks and all that to use. Again, I'll leave that information in the description box. So as far as hooks are concerned, and I'll talk a little bit more on this as we go, I'm using 2. I'm using a larger hook for the binding, which is a 5mm, and I'm using a 4mm for the rest of the garment. So I will be using these 2 hooks, and of course, as usual, pair of scissors and tapestry needle to weave in the ends. So go ahead and gather your materials and come back here and we'll start. Now to build this sweater, we're going to have a few parts here. We're first going to build the back of the sweater. We'll build the front of the sweater and seam that. We'll add some trim, and then we'll add the sleeves on after that. Now to start with, we're going to start with the bottom of the sweater where that ribbing is across the bottom of the sweater. And for all sizes, you're going to want to start with a chain of 8. And this is with your larger hook. So I'm starting with the 5mm hook here. And there is my chain of 8. And we're going to do half double crochet starting in the 3rd chain from the hook and all the way across. What you should end with is the equivalent of 7 half double crochets all the way across, and that would be counting the 2 chains that we skipped at this very beginning when we went into the 3rd chain from the hook. Let's just take a look at that once we get that all the way across. Okay, so here's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then these are the 2 chains that we skipped. That counts as a half double crochet. So don't forget that when you turn around and come back. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work from here on out for the ribbing just in the back loop only, and we're going to continue with 7 half double crochets all the way across, but in back loop only. Okay, so just in that back loop, not under both. When we get to this other side here, we don't want to forget about those 2 chains that count as a half double crochet. And put one there too, so that you continue to have 7 half double crochets. Here's 6 in that back loop only. And then there are those 2 chains there. You're going to want to go, oops, sorry. You want to go in one of those chains there. All right. So we continue to have 7 half double crochets all the way across. And this is the pattern you're going to continue for the ribbing. Just back and forth, chain 1 and turn, 7 half double crochets all the way across until this ribbing is 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters. And this is for a child size 2. If you're wanting a larger size, I will have in the description boxes the lengths that you need for other sizes here. So for me, for this video, I'm going to be doing that child size 2. And if you want to make it a little bit longer, or bigger, excuse me, I'll show you, I'll put in there what the lengths are. So continue on this path, chain 1 and turn, 7 half double crochets, back loop only until you get to the length for the size sweater that you're making, and then come back here and we'll start working up the back. Okay, here you see the finished ribbing here, the 7 half double crochets in back loops only, back and forth, and that creates that nice effect that's kind of stretchy and fun. And this is, for my size, the 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters. So now what we're going to do is start working the back, which is going to go this way and up. And to do that, first of all, I'm switching over to a 4mm. So I had 5mm on the ribbing, and then the 4mm on the rest of the back. And I think it just gives a nice tight look to the stitches on the back side. I think it looks really polished, so I kind of like the smaller hook on that. And I like the kind of freedom of the 5mm down here on the ribbing part. So we're going to switch to a 4mm. And what we need to do is double crochet across this side of the ribbing and fit the stitches in that we're going to use to go back and forth up the back of the sweater. Now, for this size, what I want to do across this ribbing is fit in 48 stitches, 48 double crochets. And depending on what size you're going to do, you just need to figure out how to evenly space that along here. Because remember, there's no real clear place to put all these, but you've heard me talk about that before if you have been on my channel before. And what I'm going to do is I went ahead and figured out the best way for me to evenly space this is, you see these groups here. You can see where they're separated. Here, here, here. That's where I'm going to focus. This is kind of a half of a group, so to speak. I'm going to put 2 double crochet here, and then starting with this full one, I'm going to put 4 double crochet here, 3 double crochet here, 4, 3, 4, 3. All the way across, it ends on 4 in this group here, and that will equal my 48 double crochet that I need. So if you're doing this size, I've already figured it out for you. If you're doing a different size, you might just need to just go through and figure out how you can best evenly situate those along that. But for this, it's going to start with 2, and then we'll do 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3 all the way across. So I will start this for you to get that going for you, and then I will let you go from there all the way across. Now for me, I prefer to use alternative turning chains as opposed to actual chain stitches for turning chains. So if you haven't seen that before, go check out my tutorial on alternative turning chains. If not, you can just do 3 chain here to start that if you'd prefer. Otherwise, use an alternative turning chain to start your section here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do an alternative turning chain right here as first of my 2. So that's going to count as my first double crochet, and in this same little section I'm doing a second double crochet. So I have 2 double crochets in this one group here. Now across here I need to put 4. My first one I'm going to put right at the beginning. If you see this spot right here, I'm going to put my first one right in there. Let me just show that again. I'm going to go a little closer. This spot right there, there's a little section there or a little hole there. That's where I'm going to put my first one because I have to fit 4 across here, all right? Then you'll see this next spot right here. I'm going to put my second one. Okay, then in here, right here, I'm going to put my third. And then in that last hole right there, I'm going to put my 4th. Okay, so I put 4 across there. Now I'm going to go to this next group and I have to fit in 3. So I don't have to go to that far one over there. I can start here and I'll put 1 here and I'll put 2 next to it right there, and I'll put the third one right here. And then I'm just going to repeat that, right? So for this next group here, I have to put 4. I'm back to doing 4. I'm going to put that first one right there. The next one will go next to it. Next one is going to go here. Oops, it's getting stuck there. Hold on a second. Sometimes you have to finagle it. That's okay. And then the 4th one right there. So that's 4. Okay, and then in this next group, I'm now back to putting in 3. So I'll put 1 here. One here. And the third one right here. Now, so you can see I did 2 here, 4, 3, 4, 3. And you'll want to continue that back and forth between 4 and 3 all the way across until the end. And when you get done with that, come back here and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, and there it is. So I went ahead with that pattern and I now have 48 double crochets that go across that binding that we did earlier. So now for the rest of the back, all we need to do is continue on with putting rows of 48 double crochets until the back piece, starting all the way down at the beginning, equals 15 inches. And again, like usual, I'll put, if you're doing different sizes, I'll give you the different lengths that you need depending on what size you're doing. But this is for the size 2, child size 2 that we're doing right here. And for me, I'm going to continue with doing alternative turning chains at the beginning as my first double crochet. And I am just going to use this and double crochet 48 double crochet all the way across every row. So go ahead and do that back and forth until your piece measures the appropriate length for the size that you're doing. and then come on back here and we'll talk about the next steps. So I finished the back part that has the ribbing along the bottom in the larger hook that has the 5mm hook. And then this is the back that this whole piece now is 15 inches. And you can see how nice and tight these double crochet stitches are here. I just like the look of the smaller hook here. Sometimes when you're crocheting with a bunch of double crochets, there's, you know, kind of spacing in between and things like that. And for a garment, I really like how this looks with that smaller hook. So at this point, you're going to want to fasten off. And this is where we want to leave the back for right now. And to go on to the next step, we're going to start on the front. So the front is going to start exactly the same way. You're going to want to start with your ribbing with your chain 8 and then 7 half double crochets in back loops only all the way across, just like you did here. And then go ahead with row 1 of the front, which is going to be exactly the same as row 1 of the back, which is where you go ahead and divide that up for the size 2. It's going to be those 48 double crochets all the way across. And so go ahead and start the front, put in your ribbing, and go ahead and do your first row of double crochets across the bottom. And then come back here and we'll talk about how to proceed with the front of the garment. Okay, I went ahead and did the start of my front of the sweater, and like I mentioned, I did the ribbing, which was the 7 half double crochet in back loops only all the way across until it got to 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters. But then what I wanted to do is make sure that it matched up perfectly with my back, the ribbing on the back. And you can see there's the same exact setup between the back ribbing and the front ribbing. So that makes sure that we're starting out in the right spot for the front of the sweater. So I will move that aside. And I also did that first row of double crochet along the side of the ribbing. And for this size, if you recall, we had 48 double crochet that we put across the side of the ribbing. And that's row 1 of the front. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the next 6 rows, and those 6 rows will be repeated a few times to create the front of the sweater, and it will create that nice pattern that you see. So to start with row 2, you'll want to turn, and I am going to continue whenever I have my double crochet here. I'm going to use my alternative turning chain. You can use a chain 3 if you want, but I prefer, as I always do, to use an alternative turning chain. And that's going to count as your first double crochet, and we actually want 10 double crochets across. So that's number 1. And then you'll continue until you have a total of 10 double crochets. Oops. Got stuck there. Try that again. And I should mention, I'm still using the 4mm hook, just like we did on the back. Here's 9, and here's 10. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little decorative element here on both sides of the sweater. And what we're going to do for that is do a front post double crochet in the next stitch. If you're not familiar with a front post double crochet, I have an entire tutorial on that you can look up. I will put the link in the description box below. So we're going to do 2 in a row of those front post double crochets. And just as a reminder, make sure that you're not doing them too tight. Since they do come down a little bit, you want to make sure you try to stay even with the double crochet height there. So once we do the 2 front post double crochets, then we're going to add our second little decorative element here. Just kind of like a little peekaboo type thing. So we'll do a double crochet, a chain 1, skip the next, and then in the one after that, do a double crochet. And you have this little square, like a little window there. Then you're going to do that again. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And you should have 3 of those little squares, those little windows there. So that's kind of like a little decorative element there. And then you're going to do 2 more double crochets after that. So just to be clear, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and then 3 double crochets. Now we're going to add our cabling that we're doing in the front center of the sweater. And to do that, you're going to do 6 front post double crochets to start with. So in your next stitch, starting here, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's going to be the start of that cabling right there. And now we're going to do the same thing that we did on this side, on that side, on the reverse. So we had 3 double crochets here. We're going to do 3 double crochets on this side. Then we're going to do our 3 little boxes. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Okay, so just like we had on this side, now you have over here. And after you do that, we're going to add our 2 front post double crochets. Again, making sure they're not too tight so they stay at that same height as all your other double crochets. And then you should have 10 stitches left, and you're going to want to go ahead and do your 10 double crochets. So go ahead and finish out the row with 10 double crochets and come back here and we'll do the next row. Okay, so we finished that all the way across, our 10 double crochets, our 2 front post double crochets, our 3 little window squares, 3 double crochets, 6 front post double crochets, and then the reverse all the way back over until we ended with 10 double crochets. So now let's go to row 3. And every time we do one of these rows, they're going to start and end with those 10 double crochets. So those will always be the same. The only time that would be different on either side is if you're doing a larger size, which again, I'll put that in the description box, but we'll always start and end with those 10 double crochets, and actually we'll always start and end with the front post double crochet. These are going to be like a little rail that's going to go up either side here. So turn your work. We'll do 10 double crochets, and of course I'm going to start with an alternative turning chain as my first one. Here's 9. Okay, and here's 10. Okay, so we've done 10. Now, the next thing that we have is where we did on this side, we did the front post double crochets. We want to keep them on that side. So on this side, we're going to do 2 back post double crochets so that we can keep the rail showing on that side. So you'll do 2 back post double crochets. And again, those will, if you're not familiar with that, those will be in, a link to the tutorial will be in the description box. And we'll do those as 2 back post double crochets. Now, we come to our second decorative feature here where we put the little boxes here. I'm actually just going to do all double crochets here. Now I will say you have options. If you don't want to do some of these decorative elements like these front post double crochets here, just do double crochets. If you don't want to do the little holes here, just do double crochets. You have that option to just do that instead. I kind of think they look nice, but I don't want too many of them. So here in the second row, I'm just going to do all double crochets. So in the double crochet, I'm going to do a double crochet in the chain 1 space, another double crochet, right? A double crochet in the chain 1 space, a double crochet, a double crochet in the chain 1 space. Okay, and so we kind of we'll have this alternate. Every other row will have these little windows, and the other rows will just have double crochets. Now we come to our 3 double crochets, and we'll just do the same 3 double crochets. And again, if you don't want to do it that way, you can do all double crochets if you want. Let me get some yarn here. Okay. Now this is where we had started the cabling on the other side with the front post double crochets. I want to continue with that, so I'm going to do back post double crochets. So we'll do 6 back post double crochets where we had the 6 front post double crochets. So here's 1. Sorry, let me get back in the camera there. Here's 2. Here's 3. And again, try not to have them be too tight so that they have the same height as your double crochets. And 6. Oops. So there's our 6 back post double crochets. Now we're going to do the reverse of what we did on the right side. So here are our 3 double crochets. Where our windows are, I'm going to fill those all in with double crochets. Okay, there are where we did our front post double crochet over there. We're going to make them back post double crochet so that that ridge always stays in the front. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, and then your 10 double crochets, finish out with 10 double crochets, and we'll start the next row. Okay, so we finished off those 10 double crochets. If you go ahead and turn, you will see that the front post double crochets here, those little rail parts are all staying on front. You can see what the little decorative part looks like. We have our 2 rows of the cabling here, and then the reverse on the other side. So let's go on with the next row. and we'll start with our 10 double crochet. Okay, here's 8, here's 9, and there's 10. Okay, so we're going to follow suit here. Remember, we want to try to keep this all in front, so we'll do 2 front post double crochets. Okay. And now we're going to do another row of the windows, the little windows I'll call them. So you'll do double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and then you have your 3 double crochets. Oops. There we go. So now we have another row with the little window pattern in there. Again, just a cute little decorative touch. If you don't want to do that, just do all double crochets. That's fine too. Now here's where we have our cabling that we're doing. Now we're going to start doing the crossing over. So what we want to do first, in case you haven't done cabling before, we're going to skip these first 3 front post double crochets and start working in these 3, and then we'll go back and grab those. So the first thing you want to do is 3 front post treble crochets, or 3 front post triple crochets, whichever way you want to say them. So we're going to do a triple crochet, but we're going to go over to these, skip these first 3 and work these first. So here's the first one. So we've skipped 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go over and do your front post triple crochet there, and you'll see it will cross over, okay? Like that. You want to do the same thing with the next one. Okay? And then the same thing with that third one over there. Okay, so there are the 3 that are crossing back over this way. Okay, now what we want to do is go back and get the 3 stitches that we missed here. We still want to do front post triple crochets, but we want to do them from behind here. This is where it's going to be a little bit tricky, but you know, if you've watched my videos, you've heard this before. Move things out of the way however you need to do it to get back to where you need to get to. But we're still going to do front post triple, but you're going to do them behind here. So you have to actually go behind these 3 that we just did and go and get this one here. Here's the first one, okay? And you're going to go get it. You see that I'm around it from the front? You still want to work from behind these ones that we put in front and finish up your triple or treble crochet, all right? I know it's tricky, but you can do it. Oh, sorry, let me go grab that again. Okay, we're gonna do it one more time. So we're gonna go over and get this one here. It's a front post, but behind these. All right, so we're gonna do through there, oops, through there, grab the stitch, see it? Again, here's a perfect example. I just moved these down so I could see that stitch still. You're gonna grab it. Now here's all the stitches. 2, 2, and 2. And there's your first one. Okay, it's still a front post, but it's behind these. All right, you're going to do that again. Go underneath, grab the second one, get these out of the way, grab your yarn, okay, now you have 2 of those done, see that? And now you're going to do the third one, okay, through there, see it, whoops, through there, grab that stitch, get those out of the way, see that? There's your stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just to see that for a minute. I just want you to see what that looks like. Here's these 3, and underneath that are the 3 we just finished, okay? Now, they kind of look a little cockeyed a little bit. Don't worry about that. We'll go back and right size those, so to speak. But now we want to finish the other half of this, similar to what we did on this side, okay? So you got your first kind of real crisscross cabling done there. Now we want to do 3 double crochets. We're going to put in our windows, so it's a chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Now we're going to do our 2 front post double crochets right there. All right, finish out your 10 double crochets. Then you can do a turn your work and start off with your 10 double crochets. So you have all your 10 here and 10 on the other side done, and come back and we'll continue on from there. Okay, now we're on row 5. So we finished up the 10 double crochet from the end of row 4. We went ahead and turned and started the 10 double crochet for the beginning of row 5. And now we're to the point of where that first decorative element is there. And like we did a couple of rows ago, we're going to do back post double crochet so that we can keep that decorative element all on the same side. So do 2 back post double crochet there, okay? And now we're to our little squares here, and similar to the row 2 before, I'm going to do all double crochets here. Again, you can do this whichever way you'd like to. But for me, this is going to be all double crochets. All right, so we kind of filled all that in there. And now we have 3 more double crochets before we get to our cabling element in the center. 2 and 3. Okay, and this is where, if you remember, this was all crossed over and kind of looks a little wonky. This is where we're going to help straighten this out. We're going to do 6 back post double crochets, all in the right order here. Now you can see we have 3 here and we have 3 here. Sometimes it might be easier to look from the top where you can find all your V's, because you need to make sure you get all 6 and they have to be in the right order. And since some of them are crossed over like this, it gets a little confusing if you haven't done this before. But you're going to do 6 back post double crochets. These 3 here first. And you might, have to do a little finagling and get things out of the way, and that's okay. Whatever you need to do to grab those stitches in the right order. And again, don't have them be too tight. You want these to be the same height as the rest of your double crochets. Now, this second one, that second one right there. Can get a little tricky because it's covered up a little bit in the back side. So just move things out of the way as you need to, see? So that you can get around. And do your second one. Third one's going to be a little bit more complicated, right? Because that's really hidden by these ones in front. So just move them out of the way, no big deal. Okay? See how I kind of poked that around there? All right. And there's your third one. Okay? Now the other three are the ones right here. Those are the next three that we want to get. So you're going to do a back post double crochet. Trying to get this. Okay, you can see them here. We're going to do a back post double crochet on this one next. Okay. Here's that second one right here. Oops. We just did this one. Now we want to do this one. Okay, so that one in the middle there, you see that? And then that last one, right there. Okay, then we're going to do the reverse again of the other side. So 3 double crochets. And I just want you to see for a minute before we move on how that helps even things out when you do those back post double crochets where that cabling is, okay? If you do them in the right order, it helps really straighten all that out. Now we're going to fill in these next few ones with all double crochets like we did on the other side. Okay, now we have our 2 front post double crochets. For this side, we're going to do back post double crochets so that we can keep them all on the same side. So do 2 more back post double crochets here. Okay. Then go ahead and do your 10 double crochets, turn your work, and do 10 more double crochets to start out row 6 and come on back here. Okay, so let's take a look at where we are right here. You can see we're making nice progress on this cable in the center here. And what you should have done is finished your 10 double crochets and then turned and started your next 10 double crochets. And I'm sure at this point you can kind of figure out where we are with this pattern. It's really the center cabling that I want to make sure that we outline here, but let's just keep going for this row. You're going to do your 2 front post double crochets like we've been doing. Okay, then a double crochet. And this is the row to do our little windows. So we're gonna chain 1, skip 1, chain 1, skip 1, and chain 1, skip 1. Then our 3 double crochets. Okay. And now we are to the center cabling again. And for this next part here, we're going to do just 6 front post double crochets. And that'll further kind of straighten out any of the kind of, I want to say wonkiness, but you know, if it's a little not as straight as you'd like it, this will really help that as well. So we're going to do 6 front post double crochets around all of these, right in order. 1, 2, Again, make sure that they're not too tight so that they stand up the same height as your double crochets. 3. Now if you need to, you might need to move something out of the way to get that next one, right? Did you see that? It's a little bit behind there, so make sure you move it out of the way. That's why I say it helps kind of straighten things up when you have another row of these front post double crochets. There's 5, and this one is 6. Okay, so you can see that helps straighten that out a little bit more. Looks really nice. Now we'll finish off this row like we started on the other side. So 3 double crochets. Then our windows, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Okay, and then we have our 2 front post double crochets again, and then our 10 double crochets. So finish up 10 double crochets, turn your work, start with row 7 on your 10 double crochets, and row 7 will be the last one we do and for the repeat, and then I'll show you what to repeat so that we can get a little bit further along on our front piece. So go ahead and do your 10 double crochets at the end of this row, the 10 double crochets to start row 7, and come on back. Okay, so here we are at the start of row 7. We've gone ahead and done our 10 double crochets, and here we are. We're going to, like before, do 2 back post double crochets to keep bringing that one forward here. So 1 back post, whoops, and the second back post double crochet. Okay, and then we'll fill in and do all double crochets here like we do every other row. If you're counting, that's 6 double crochets in a row. All right, now we're going to do these 3 double crochets here. All right, and now we're to our cabling element in the middle. So we're going to do this crossover again that we did over here, but we're going to do it from behind this time. So to do that, first what we need to do is, I'm going to kind of show it to you from this way. We need to capture these 3 stitches first over here, okay? So we need to go and get those and skip these first 3 ones, but we're going to need to do those with back post treble or back post triple crochets, okay, to catch those. So we want to do this one first, this one second, this one third, all with back post triple crochets. All right, so we're on the back here on row 7. You're going to start a triple crochet. We're going to go and get this fourth stitch over here. So you've already skipped 3. You're going to grab this one here and do a back post triple crochet there. So if you notice, that's crossing over now. It's doing it in front, even though we're doing it from the back, right? Go get that next one that's right next to it, okay, for another back post triple crochet. All right, and then get the third one. Sorry, I need more yarn here for your, oops. Sorry about that. Let's do that one again. I think sometimes it's hard looking in the camera and at my work at the same time. You want to make sure you're doing the right one. So you're going to skip these 3 and then go 4, 5, 6. So let's make sure we had that right. So we're going to do our first one. Yep. Is going to be this one here. Sorry, this one here. See, we skipped these first 3. So back post triple crochet. We want to do another one. So this one right here will be our second one. Back post triple crochet. And then our third one here is that one next to it, okay? And that's our third back post triple crochet. Okay, so if you're looking at it from the front, you can see we're continuing on with that pattern here, and it's crossing over. So now we want to go over and get the 3 that we missed. Right there, 1, 2, 3. We still want them to be back post triple crochets, but we want them on top of this or to come over this one. So this one is a little tricky just to get that into the right area. So they're still back post treble, but you're going to go around in front of the 3 that we just did and go grab those. So here's the first one that you want to do a front post triple crochet around. You see how I brought that forward? And do 1, 2, 3. Okay, now you want to go get the second one, which is right here. Bring that through. Do 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can see how that's coming back over. Now we still have to go back and get this third one here. All right, so that one's getting a little tricky because it's kind of hidden back in there. All right, so here it is right here. Want to grab that third one here, pull that through. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and just so we can take a look at that for a minute, you can see that's coming back over this way, right? Okay, and now what you want to do is finish out this row the same way that we started over here. Pretty straightforward. You're going to do your 3 double crochets, then fill in all those little windows with 6 more double crochets. Now we'll do our 2 back post double crochets so we can continue that pattern in that front there. And then finish up your 10 double crochets and come back here and we'll talk about the repeat. Okay, so here is what that pattern is looking like. I think you'll see it's got some really nice little elements there with the front posts here and here, our little windows along the center here, and then of course that beautiful cabling in the center there. What you want to do now is go ahead and repeat rows 2 through 7. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 2 more times. So you want to take this and do this 2 more times. After that, I'll tell you which ones and how you want to repeat the last few before we start shaping for the neckline. So go ahead and do this rows 2 through 7 2 more times, and then come on back here and we'll talk about next steps. Okay, so I went ahead and I repeated those rows 2 through 7 2 more times. And what we want to do now is continue that pattern, that repeat, but only until the front side is 4 rows shorter than the back that we did. So let me just explain that. Here is my back that I did earlier, and my rows here, including the very first double crochet row that we did, is 27. So I want to make the front piece 23. And when I repeated the rows 2 through 7 2 more times, so 3 total, that brought me to 19. And so instead of repeating rows 2 through 7, I only want to do 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here's where it is for me through row 19. And then I added 4 more rows. So I didn't do, like I said, I didn't do a complete repeat, just 4 rows of that. So what you're going to want to do is figure out how many rows more you need to add based on what size that you did, so that this piece now is 4 rows shorter than the back piece. And once you do that, you can come back here and we will start working on the neckline and the little shoulder pieces on the side. Now, if you end like where I did, you can see it's a little wavy there just because of where we ended this particular cable pattern. Don't worry about that, because we still have to do a trim around the neckline once we get all this done, and it will look great and straight and all that kind of stuff. So go ahead and add on however many more rows you need to. For this size, it was 4 for me, to be 4 rows shorter than your back piece. And then come on back here and we'll talk about doing the neckline. Okay, so now for the size I'm doing, I now have 23 rows as compared to 27 rows that I have on the back piece. So we have to work over the next 4 rows here on shaping this right side of the neck. So the first thing we want to do, let me get this set up here, is, okay, we're going to turn the work and we're going to continue with our pattern over the next 14 stitches. So it'll be a little bit different for us, and I'll show you why here. So we'll go ahead and do the first 10. Let me move in a little bit here. So we'll do the first 10 double crochets just like we have all the way across. And then when we get to the front post double crochet, you're going to want to continue that. So here's our 10 double crochet, okay, all the way across. We're here at the front post, so go ahead and do 2 front posts. So this is stitch 11 and 12. And then we want 2 more to reach 14. Now normally we'd go into our pattern with the squares here, the little open squares, but we're not going to do that since we're shaping the neckline now. So we're going to leave that as that, and there are 14 stitches. Now if you're doing a different size, you're going to have a different number of stitches over here on the right. I'll put that in the description box just so that you know how many you're going to need for yours, but it's all on this side of the work. So we've done 14, and now over the next 2 stitches here, these 2 here, we want to do a double crochet 2 together, or a double crochet 2 tog, DC 2 tog, however you want to say it. We're going to put 2 together. So that's going to reduce that by 1. If you're not sure how to do that, I do have a tutorial for that. But now we've taken those 2 stitches down to 1. And what you can see is that it's starting to shape that neckline on an angle there. Okay, and that's it for this row. We're not going to touch the rest of this row. You're going to want to turn your work, and we're going to continue with this type of reduction. So we do want to continue shaping this inward, so I'm not going to do an alternative turning chain. I'm just going to do 2 double crochets, and over these next 2 stitches I'm going to do another 2 together. So this is 2 double crochet, or excuse me, we already have 2 chain on this first stitch. So for this next 2, we're going to join those next 2 together with a double crochet. All right, and there we've gotten that down. Okay, and then you want to continue on with the rest of your pattern, which for us is 2 back post double crochets. We're going to continue with that as far as we can. All right, and then the rest of your double crochets to the end of the row. Oops. Okay, so that's our first shaping of the neckline, and you can see this angled portion here. All right, then you're going to want to turn your work, and we're going to do that same thing over the next 2 rows, okay? So we want to reduce 1 more here at the neckline to continue this angle, and then on the subsequent row we want to do that same thing, an angle. So you've reduced 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here, you're going to reduce another stitch in this row and another stitch in the 4th row. So continue with that pattern of decreasing on this side of the neck only for 2 more rows, and then come on back here and we'll see what that looks like. So here's what that neckline looks like now that we finished the 4 rows with the shaping on it on the inside here. And one thing I wanted to mention about the front post double crochet rows that we have here, one of the on the very last row we had to do 2 together over the front post double crochets. So I actually did them as front post double crochet 2 together. Now if you don't want to do it as a front post double crochet 2 together, you can just do regular double crochets. I just wanted to carry on the look, so I did the front post double crochet 2 together. And I can show you how I did that. I'll go through all the rows when we do the left side here, if you want to do it that way. So now you go ahead and fasten off your work, which is what I did here, and finish that off. Now we're going to move to the left. We want to stay on the right side. Don't turn it around and start over here to kind of mimic what we're doing here. We're going to do the mirror image of what we did on the right side over on the left. So what you'll want to do is find where to join your yarn. And you know, you can count if you want to, but I think the easiest way to see here is that here are your front posts, and we started 4 over from the front post double crochets. So for us on this side, you're going to want to join at 4 over here. So go ahead and join your yarn there. And what you'll want to do is chain 2, and then what we're going to do, and I'm just going to weave my yarn in as we go. You don't need to, but I'm going to weave mine in. So we have 4 stitches here. We want to reduce this down to 3. So we're going to go ahead and in the next 2 stitches do a double crochet 2 together. And then here's your 4th one. So that actually reduced that from 4 stitches down to 3, just like we did on this side over here. Then go ahead and finish your pattern the same way with the 2 front post double crochets and your double crochets to the end of the row. Turn your work, do your 10 double crochets back, and then come back here and we'll do the next reverse row. Okay, so here's where we finished the 10 double crochets for that row. We turned our work and started our next set of 10 double crochets. We are now at the part where the front post double crochet pattern is, and we'll do our 2 back post double crochet to continue with that pattern. All right, and here's where we had gone from 4 down to 3. So we have 3 stitches here. We want to turn that down to 2. So a double crochet in the first one, and then double crochet 2 together in the next. So now that's down to 2 stitches. And turn your work. So we're going to go 2 down to 1 here. So chain 2, and you're going to go start your double crochet 2 together in that first double crochet here, and then the other half of it is going to be with the front post double crochet. I know that's kind of weird. Just trust me on that. Okay, and then finish up with your next front post double crochet and your 10 double crochets. And go ahead and finish off your 10 double crochets, turn your work, and do 10 more double crochets to start, and come back here and we'll finish off with doing the these 2 front post stitches. We'll do a decrease on those. Okay, so we went ahead and started our last row with those 10 double crochets like we normally do. And we're here where that front post double crochet pattern is. Now, to make it look like the other side, we want to actually do those 2, join those 2 stitches together. Since we're coming at it from the back, this is going to be a back post double crochet 2 together. So let me just show you how I do that. So I'm going to start my back post around the first one, like I would normally do. And then I'm going to start my back post around the second one. And then finish it off to join that together. So it's just like doing double crochet 2 together, but from a front post or a back post perspective. And then we want to do our final stitch there is 1 more double crochet, and that gives us our 12 stitches on each side. Okay, and then if you turn that around, you will see we've got our neck shaping on both sides, all the way around the neckline. We have our front post double crochets narrowing down to 1 on both sides, and that will do it for the neckline part. So go ahead and fasten off your work on this side, and when you're ready, come on back here and we'll talk about next steps. Okay, so we have finished our shaping and fastened off our pieces, and now we are ready to start some assembly so that we can work on putting some trim around the neck. So to do that, we are going to do a slip stitch to seam our shoulders right here. So these are the shoulder parts, and here's your back. We want to have the right sides facing each other. So here's all your decorative work and your cabling on the inside there. So right sides together. And you're gonna want to do a slip stitch seam at both shoulders, here and here. And then when we're done with that, we're going to put some markers here on each side to signal where the armholes are going to be. But first, let's do the slip stitches here. So if you haven't done that before, I'll just take a minute and I'll show you. I'm actually going to start with a slip stitch, a slip knot on here to start with. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to make sure my stitches on each side are lined up. Everything's all the same size, remember, so that should line up just fine. And to do this, I am going to do on the front loop, and on the subsequent stitch on the back side, I'm going to do back loop. So front loop here, back loop here, and I want to make sure my yarn is in the back and get these pieces out of the way here. There we go. Okay. So I have it through the front loop of the front side, through the back loop of the back side, and I'm just going to go through all 3 loops on my hook. Okay, and then I'm going to do that with the next one. Front loop, back loop, and pull through all 3. Front loop, back loop, all 3. And if you remember, we have 12 stitches on each side, so you should have 12 stitches here to seam this up. Go over and on this side, do your slip stitch seam for 12 stitches on this side. Fasten those off when you're done. I'll just do a couple more here just to show you. This front loop, back loop, slip with all through all 3, front loop, back loop, slip stitch through all 3. So you can see that does a nice seam for you along there. So go ahead and do your slip stitch to seam the 12 stitches in this shoulder, the 12 stitches in this shoulder. When you're done, what you want to do is measure for this size 5 inches down, and put a marker there. That will be to signify your sleeve, your openings for your sleeves. So for me, that's going to be right here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that and make sure they line up on both sides. So it's this row here, and I'll mark it with the same row over on the other side so that my rows line up. And that's where I'm going to put my sleeves. Do the same thing on this side over here so that those match up. And then once you have your slip stitch seaming of your shoulders done and your shoulder sleeve, marked on here, come on back here, and then we're going to do some edging around the neck. Okay, so here's what that looks like. I've got my seam on both sides of my shoulders, and I went ahead and put my markers through where the sleeves are going to be, making sure those rows all match up. And now we're going to do a little trim around the neckline. So I'm going to start over in this left shoulder area, and I'm going to join my yarn here. Now what I'm going to do is put a half double crochet. I'm just in this corner stitch here, okay? And I am going to put a half double crochet in each stitch all the way around. And I'm going to start with a chain 2. Now if you want to, You can weave in some yarn, some edges as you go, some of these tails, or you can wait until the end, however you like to do that. I personally like to try to weave in as much as I go as possible, just so I have less to do at the end, but whatever you would like to do is fine. So I'm going to do a half double crochet in all the stitches all the way around. Just one note is when you come to this angled part, remember there's not really a clear set place like there is in these double crochets here or these double crochets here where to put your stitches. So just make sure you're putting them in as evenly as possible along the slanted edges here of the neckline, and then of course in every stitch wherever you have a double crochet. So I'm just going to start here and put my double crochets in here. I gotta get some of my tails out of the way. I have too many tails. All right, so I'm gonna do a double crochet in every stitch all the way across. I'm starting here and where the on the back where the double crochets are. Excuse me, the double crochets are. And I'm just gonna put a half double crochet all the way across there. All right, and this is just edging for the neckline. And I'm sorry, I just realized I have that off camera a little bit. Sorry about that. So I'm doing my edging all the way around. In every double crochet, I'm putting a half double crochet, all right? And continue to do this all the way around. And when you get all the way around, you want to join it with a slip stitch to the first chain 2 that we started with over here. Come back when we get here and we'll talk about that slip stitch and then what the next steps are. Okay, and here is what that beautiful half double crochet little trim looks like once you finish all that. So now we can fasten that off and we can start working on the sleeves here. And be done with that. Okay, now to work on the sleeves, we actually want to have the right side facing. So we want to turn this back out, right side out. Okay, and be careful of those markers, markers that you have in there. So you still have them in here. Here's what that looks like now. It's really nice. You can see where we need to put the sleeves here and on this side. And for this size, what we want to do is have a total of 38 double crochets all around the sleeves, okay? So I am going to start on the left side. I am going to join my yarn. And I think I'll start on the back and go around this way. Now, something to think about. How are you going to evenly space these 38? If you think about it this way, you have two sides, the front side and the back side. So 38 divided by 2 means I need 19 on each side, 19 on this side and 19 on that side. And then I like to look at how these are kind of broken up a bit. So you can see there's groups of 2 here. I would say that I would want, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, and that would give me my 19, and do the same thing on the other side to give me 19 on that side, and that's going to give me my 38. Now if you're making a different size, of course, check in the description box for how many you need, but that'll give you an idea of how to go around and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and join my yarn over here to where the 5-inch marker is. And then I will go ahead and chain 2 to start as my first double crochet, and then I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my double crochets all the way around. Again, the goal here is to make them equal for this size 19 on each side. And yes, I'm weaving in my little tail there as I go. Again, I like to do that anywhere I can. So go ahead and start putting in your double crochets. Get your 38 all the way around, and meet me back here when you get back around to the other marker on the other side and you have your 38 in, and we'll talk about next steps. Okay, let's take a look at our first round of the sleeves. I started in the back there. I have 38 double crochets all the way around. And at this point, normally if you wanted to keep working in the round, you could do that, and you could slip stitch to the beginning and keep going, but we're actually going to turn our work and go all the way back. And what we're going to end up doing is we'll decrease the sleeves a little bit every third row, and then we'll seam the underarm of the sleeve as we seam down the side too. So you have your correct number of double crochets all the way around here, and instead of joining to the beginning, you're going to turn your work. Okay? Oops, sorry about that. And now what we want to do is 38 double crochets all the way back too. So this will be row 2. I am here going to do an alternative turning chain. Again, I just think it's more stable. And I'm going to do 38 double crochets all the way back around. Okay, until I get to where we started. And once you get over there, come back here and I'll talk you through what to do on row 3 of the sleeve. Okay, here we have 2 rows of our sleeve double crochets. So once again, we want to turn our work. And now this is row 3. So we're going to decrease 1 stitch at each end when we get to the other side and this side here. So what we'll want to do to start that is start with 2 chain and skip this stitch here and just go right into the next stitch, and that becomes 1 stitch. You can kind of see how that's a reduction there. Go all the way around with your double crochets. When you get to the last 2 stitches, you're going to want to do a double crochet 2 together there. So meet me back on that other side to decrease that stitch there. Okay, I've gone all the way around with row 3 until I'm to the last 2 stitches, and then I'm just going to do a double crochet 2 together here to reduce down 1 on this side. So now what we have, we've got rid of 1 stitch on this side, we reduced 1 stitch where we started, so we went from 38 down to 36 stitches all the way around. So what you'll want to do now is repeat these first 3 rows. So you should have 36, 36, and then 34, because you're going to decrease 1, on each side again. So when you've repeated rows 1 through 3 one more time, come on back here and we'll talk about next steps. Okay, so here is what that looks like after 6 rows, 2 of which were decreased rows. So I went from 38 down to 34 stitches on here. And what we're looking for is for that sleeve to be about 3 inches. And you can see that's exactly what mine is. If you aren't quite at 3 inches, you can add another row. If you want the sleeve to be a little longer, you can add another couple of rows, but leave it at the 34 that we've gotten down to and add a row or two if you want that to be a little bit longer. I'm going to stop here. Now what we want to do is this exact same thing, repeat what we just did, those 6 rows, but over here on the other side so that you can get a sleeve in on the other side. When you finish that, come on back here and we will finish up. And here we have our 2 pieces, our back with our sleeves and the front. We've got sleeves on both sides. And now our final step here is just to seam the 2 pieces together. So I have the right sides together, so the wrong side is facing on both sides. And from here, you can see I put some markers all along the edges so that I could line up exactly where things line up perfectly along the edge. And you can do this pretty much however you'd like to seam. What I am going to do is I am going to do a slip stitch seam, excuse me, from the bottom all up and through the arm. So I'll go up here and then straight down the arm, and that'll finish that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side and seam up this way and across the arm. And I'm going to do that with a slip stitch like we did on the shoulders. If you'd prefer to do with a tapestry needle, you can do that. Or you can do, you know, pretty much any other stitch that you want to do. I just think the slip stitch is a little neater for this specifically. And then if you'd prefer, do it with a needle, and you can do a mattress stitch or any other kind of stitch that you'd like to do to get this together. But that's what I'm gonna do here. And I am starting here on the bottom where the stitches do line up perfectly, because we had 7, if you remember, across. And then when you get to the sides, you know, there's nothing that's gonna look like a stitch for you to go into. So you're just going to have to try to put those slip stitches evenly spaced like you're doing down here into both sides of these all the way up and across. So go ahead and seam your pieces together however you'd like to do that, and then we'll come back here and finish up. Okay, here it is. Oh my goodness, I think it is so cute. I went ahead and seamed up both sides like I talked about. I used the slip stitch that I told you about. And then I went ahead and weaved in all the tails that I had on the inside here and turned it right side out again. And here is our finished product. I think it's really adorable. Now, if you wanted to, I don't think it needs it, but if you wanted to, you could put maybe an edging around the sleeves, but I don't think it needs it. And I think this is complete. So I hope you like this. I think this is adorable. And I hope you'll give this one a try. Also, if you could like and subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate it. It would really help me out. And I hope you give this one a try and let me know how it works out for you. Thanks, and I'll see you all next time.